Thanks for visiting our channel again. The band's unity and Osbourne's personal connections were overshadowed by his struggles with substance abuse and erratic conduct. Black Sabbath guitarist and co-founder Tony Iommi has frequently provided insight into these volatile periods, illuminating how Osbourne's actions affected those in his vicinity. Imagine this: the late 1960s in Birmingham, England. Soon after meeting, for young men, Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward form a band that would alter the course of heavy metal forever. It was clear that they clicked musically. Iommi's thunderous riffs went well with Osbourne's eerie vocals. The members' bond was one of brothers, formed in the crucible of their common love of music. Problems with the rock and roll lifestyle became more apparent as their star power increased. Over time, Osbourne's heavy drug and alcohol use led to erratic conduct and deteriorated relationships among the band members. Substance abuse by Osbourne reached dangerous proportions by the mid-1970s. Because of his substance abuse and excessive drinking, he became unpredictable, missed several rehearsals, and gave poor performances. Tony Iommi has described the difficulties of collaborating with Osbourne at that time in multiple interviews. It was difficult to keep the band together due to Osbourne's unpredictable behavior, which put their stability at risk. The consequences of Osbourne's actions were felt by Geezer Butler and Bill Ward as well. In instance, Ward had his own problems with substance misuse, and Osbourne's actions frequently made things worse for him. Distancing themselves, the once close-knit group began to unravel, as their differences in character cast a shadow over their joint musical endeavor. In 1979, something really important happened. The band made the tough choice to break up with Osbourne after a string of underwhelming performances and rising tensions. This was a really difficult time for the band, according to Tony Iommi. The band felt they had to continue without Osbourne since his behavior had grown intolerable, despite their strong friendship. The departure of Osbourne was a watershed moment for Black Sabbath. Ozzy Osbourne's departure was profound, even though the band kept making music with other lead singers. Attempts to establish himself outside of the band were a source of additional personal downfall for Osbourne during this time. The effects of Ozzy Osbourne's drug addiction were devastating to his private life as well as his career, and he would take a long time to recover. Sharon Osbourne, the woman who supported him through thick and thin, became a flashpoint in his marriage as his substance abuse problems worsened. Living through Ozzy's lowest points has been a difficult experience for Sharon, who has spoken about the verbal and physical violence she endured at his hands. Every day was a risk for Sharon, who didn't know whether her husband would be the stable, caring one she remembered or the unpredictable, wild child her substance abuse had turned him into. The delicate balancing act of love and survival required a life of perpetual vigilance. A love that was both strong and tested bound her as she became Ozzy's defender and, at times, his victim, despite her indomitable will. All three of her children, Amy, Kelly, and Jack, felt the effects of their father's substance abuse as they navigated childhood. While most kids remember their childhoods filled with pleasant family fun, Ozzy's kids had to deal with an unstable environment. As his addictions became the focus of their lives, their father's popularity and success lost much of its significance. In instance, Kelly and Jack saw their father's lows and highs very clearly, and the grief from those years would linger with them into adulthood. They, too, would fight addiction, with each setback mirroring the one their father had suffered. Even though their home was adorned with the luxury that Ozzy's fame had purchased, it frequently lacked the serenity and stability that most families enjoy. The immense grief and guilt that Ozzy feels for the pain he caused his family has been discussed in his more reflective writings. Instead, he faces the responsibility head-on. He feels terrible guilt for the damage he has caused to the people he cares about the most. He freely said that he was oblivious to the harm he was doing while his addiction was at its worst. Nothing mattered to him anymore. His focus was solely on the next drink, the next high. But looking back, he realizes those years were a dark spiral that snatched away valuable time from his loved ones, time he will never get back. It has been a challenging but ultimately rewarding process to mend those broken ties. He found solace in Sharon's affection for him, which was shaped by her own resilience, as he sought to regain his footing. The wounds are physical evidence of the hardships they overcame as a team, but the love they shared has grown stronger over the years. After years of hurting together and taking baby steps toward recovery, his children have finally found the strength to forgive him. In contrast to his earlier self, Ozzy now appreciates the value of family gatherings and peaceful moments with the appreciation they deserve because he knows they were not always easy to come by. Despite the devastation that addiction may cause, Ozzy's family has shown time and again that love can conquer all. He has had the opportunity to mend the wounds he once caused on his road to sobriety, which is a testimony to the power of redemption. A tribute to the sacrifices his family made for him and the fortitude it took to rebuild from the ruins, Ozzy's dedication to them has become his redemption arc, even though the shadows of the past still remain. Ozzy views every minute spent with his family as an opportunity for redemption. He can now be the father and husband he never had the chance to be during those difficult years. As a solo artist, Osbourne had ups and downs in the years after leaving Black Sabbath. Many failures in his personal and professional life occurred as a result of his persistent substance misuse. But he made a decision to get sober in the early 2000s, and that was the turning moment. Osbourne embarked on his arduous journey to recovery with the encouragement of his loved ones and former bandmates. Despite their history of animosity, Tony Iommi stayed with Osbourne during this ordeal, demonstrating how strong their friendship remains. Their once strained friendship finally found a way to mend. Looking back on his troubled history, Ozzy Osbourne feels a mix of regret and thankfulness in his heart today. After years of sobriety, loss, and reveling in mayhem, the wild rock star now sits with a newfound perspective. He doesn't try to hide the fact that he hurt himself and everyone he cared about. His loved ones, his fellow musicians, and the onlookers who witnessed his fall all bear the physical and intangible marks of his ordeal. Addiction stole his joy, and he remembers with a twinge of regret the anniversaries he didn't celebrate, the promises he didn't keep, and the concerts he had to play while stoned. On the other hand, there is thankfulness. Thankfulness for second chances, thankfulness for a family that supported him, and thankfulness for the strength he mustered to face his demons and get his life back. Tony Iommi's thoughts on Osbourne enriched this legacy even further. Iommi bore the brunt of Ozzy's unpredictable conduct for a long time, leading the band through the chaos that Ozzy brought to every performance and recording. The hardships of fame and the heavy cost of allegiance are both laid bare by Iommi's admissions regarding those years. Despite the low points, Iommi remained committed to the music and his bandmate, which allowed him to persevere while others gave up. A side of rock and roll that is never discussed, the human costs, sacrifices, and silent fortitude required of those who stand by loved ones lost in addiction, is illuminated by Iommi's views. In his thoughts, he stresses that forgiving someone takes time, sometimes hurts, and requires faith that healing is possible. Getting back on his feet has been an incredible ordeal for Osbourne. Changing, being humble, and being willing to live differently were more necessary than apologies when confronting the harm that addiction caused. Restoring the relationships he shattered took years of fighting, therapy, and his wife Sharon's unwavering support. There were several low points and relapses during his path to rehabilitation. He persisted, nevertheless. Clarity increased with each passing year. With each setback came a greater comprehension of the resilience required to escape. The path to sobriety was only the beginning. It led him to a whole new way of life, where he finally recognized himself in the mirror after years of hiding. But the story of Ozzy Osbourne and Tony Iommi is about more than just making it through tough times. It's about how struggle shapes the bonds of brotherhood. Forgiveness and mutual regard have repaired their once fractured relationship. Their friendship reached heights neither of them had ever dreamed of when they were younger because Iommi was willing to forgive and see that Ozzy's catastrophic path was driven by internal struggles as much as external ones. The bond that was previously formed through music and same goals has now become one of strength, of comprehending the devastating effects of addiction, and of the eternal optimism that even the most shattered relationships may be restored. Despite its somber tone, the tale of Osbourne and Iommi remains an inspirational, illuminating, and powerful testimony to the rock and roll community. Their story shows that legacies are forged in the struggles endured outside of the spotlight, not just in the success of the artist's career. in the healing power that resides in each of us, and in the repaired connections that have weathered the storms of life. The wild antics of his past are no longer relevant to Ozzy's legacy. Rather, it revolves around the inner strength he discovered through recovery, the forgiveness he gained, and the bravery required to face the shadows. His path toward enlightenment will prove to be his greatest triumph, even if he remains the Prince of Darkness.